Madam Speaker. I urge the House to reject this measure, and I urge the House to insist on bipartisan procedures that respect the rights of the minority and the right of due process. With that, Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished Republican leader, Mr. McCarthy of California.
Gentleman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Speaker, elections have consequences. Our fellow Americans use their vote to choose who will work for them. So I ask you all a simple question, especially to my colleagues. Is that what is happening here today? Are we gathered in these final moments before we depart for a week to fund our government, to pay our troops? Are we gathered today to prove a new trade deal? Or are we gathered to debate the critical national security issues regarding China or Iran? Well, that answer would be unanimously no. We are not working for the American people. Those items would resemble the achievements of a productive Congress, a Congress that truly works for the people. But you know what this Congress counts? This Congress records is more subpoenas than laws. That's the legacy. It is not just devoid of solutions for the American people. It is now abusing its power to discredit democracy. By using secret interviews and selective leaks to portray the president's legitimate actions as an impeachable offense. Democrats are continuing their permanent campaign to undermine his legitimacy. For the last 3 years, they have predetermined the president's guilt. They have never accepted the voters' choice to make him president. So for 37 days and counting, they have run an unprecedented, undemocratic, and unfair investigation. This resolution today only makes it worse. I've heard members on the other side say they promise rights to the president, but only if he does what they want. That's the equivalent of saying in the First Amendment, you have the right to the freedom of speech, but you can only say the words I agree with. That's what you call due process. The amendment offered by my colleague, Mr. Cole, would help correct some of the transparency concerns we have witnessed over the last few weeks. But today is more than the fairness of an impeachment process. It is about the integrity of our electoral process. Democrats are trying to impeach the president because they are scared they cannot defeat him at the ballot box. That's not my words. That's the words of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle that has offered impeachment 3 different times. This impeachment is not only an attempt to undo the last election, it is an attempt to influence the next one as well. This is not what Democrats promised when they entered the majority 11 months ago. In this chamber, we heard from our Speaker while we all sat here. We heard what the Speaker said when she talked about words of optimism and cooperation. It was said we would work together to make America stronger, more secure, and more prosperous. We were told our mission was to return the power to the people. In fact, our new colleagues on the other side of the aisle were sent to Washington with a mandate to do just that. So what's happening? Nothing like that today. Not long ago, Democrats recognized that a partisan impeachment would put politics over people and harm our nation. That exact same Speaker that talked about cooperation, that talked about and promised the American people that they would be different. They would be different if you trusted you with the majority. You have failed in that promise. That Speaker said impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, the word of bipartisan, I do not think we should go down that path because it divides the country. What has changed since those words have been spoken? Alexander Hamilton wrote, "There will always be the greatest danger that the decision to use the impeachment power would be driven by partisan animosity instead of real demonstrations of innocence or guilt. This sham impeachment by Democrats have proven Hamilton right and portrays the speaker's own words. I know emotions are high. I know members would even run for positions of chair simply on the fact that they would be a better chair for impeachment right after the election. But when we all stood that day and listened to the words of the Speaker of cooperation, we all raised our hand to uphold the Constitution. Tomorrow is November 1st. We're 1 year away from an election, not just for this House, but for the highest office of presidency. Why do you not trust the people? Why do you not allow the people to have a voice? Why, in a process that America lends their voice to all of us, that you deny us to speak for them? Is animosity risen that high? Is Hamilton proven correct again? There is a moment and time that you should rise to the occasion. This is that moment. This is the moment that history will write. History will ask you, when you cast this vote, when you cast a vote to justify something that has gone on behind closed doors, I want you to ask the historian and answer the question, what do you know that happened there? Have you read anything that took place that you just justified? What do you believe the definition of due process is? What do you think the First Amendment is? Do you have the right to have a voice, or only the words that you agree with? You may get elected in a primary, but in a general election, you're elected to represent the people of America, not to deny their voice. This House is so much better than what is transforming today. I believe everyone who runs for this office runs to solve a problem. But when you go back to the American public with the achievement of more subpoenas than laws, that is not why you ran. That is not why we are here. And that's why I agree with my colleague, Mr. Cole, that believes in the power of the people, people before politics, that we believe and know we can do better. That we believe the Speaker when she said about cooperation. We believed her when she said if you trusted them with the majority, they would be different. I guess it's only fitting you take this vote on Halloween. I yield back.
Members are directed to address their remarks to the chair. The gentleman from Oklahoma has 1 minute remaining.
With that, Madam Speaker, I will yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
I yield myself the balance of the time.
Gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker, let me assure the distinguished minority leader that this Democratic majority can legislate and also fulfill our constitutional responsibilities to hold this president to account, because it is our job. We took an oath to do that. And in terms of our legislative accomplishments, they're second to none. When you were in the majority, you shut the government down. Today, the Education and Labor Committee just reported out the higher ed bill. We passed a bill to deal with gun violence. We passed the DREAM Act. We raised the minimum wage. We're working on a bill to lower prescription drugs. We passed a bill to protect our elections so Russia doesn't interfere in our elections ever again. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say to my colleagues that I am proud of the process we are following here today that brought us this resolution. Madam Speaker, past Congresses under the impeachments of President Nixon and Clinton found it prudent to have a resolution in place laying out the path forward. And that is what we are doing here today. This resolution before us today is based on precedent. It includes protections for President Trump. The President's counsel is given the right to ask questions when the evidence is presented. The rules here expressly provide his counsel the chance to be invited to offer a concluding presentation. Neither of these things were guaranteed to President Nixon and President Clinton. And it lays out a clear path forward so that the American people know what to expect going forward. Madam Speaker, the obstruction from this White House is unprecedented. It is stunning. We don't know whether President Trump will be impeached, but the allegations are as serious as it gets, endangering national security for political gain. Madam Speaker, history is testing us, and I worry, based on what we have heard from the other side today, that some may be failing that test. There are no kings and queens in America. That is what separates this country from so many other nations. No one is above the law. Let me repeat that. No one is above the law. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution. I yield back my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
The question now occurs on ordering the previous question on the resolution. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Madam
Gentleman
Speaker,
from Oklahoma.
on that I would request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption of the resolution. The chair emphasizes that this will be a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 231, the nays are 196. The previous question is ordered.
Okay, what was your
Resolution.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Madam Speaker,
The resolution is adopted. The gentleman
on that I would request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number have arisen. The yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote, colleagues, a 5-minute vote. Why are we doing On this vote, the yeas are 232, the nays are 196. The resolution is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Where does the gentleman from Missouri seek recognition?
I request permission to speak for 1 minute out of
Without
turn.
any objection? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized. Objection is heard.
I don't see it.
Pursuant to House Resolution 656 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 823. Will the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of Bill H.R. 823, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill to provide for the designation of certain wilderness areas, recreation management areas, and conservation areas in the state of Colorado and for other purposes.
Rose, Wednesday, October 30th, a request for a recorded vote on Amendment Number 6, printed in Part B of House Report 116-264, offered by the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Crow, had been postponed. What now? Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume in Part B of House Report 116-264, on which further...
Very nice of you.
Just an FYI, they're coming down after all votes have finished.
After all the votes are finished?
We'll have amendment and final passage, so we're absolutely.
So what's your ETA?
Let's see, there are plenty of days that I just don't.
Is it lunchtime? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's between 16, 21, at least a half hour.
Oh, nothing, okay. Very good, thank you. I'm right here.
Katie Hill around for this vote, huh?
Yeah.
Ruff-row. Is that? Yeah, I'm normally not that simple. Okay.
You were supposed to.
Okay.
Whatever good ways of Right, it's always been a double up. That's what I'm saying.
Can I use that in my next class?
Yeah, whenever you rush.
Training with print recorders tomorrow.
See ya. No question. There's a bad. Not to call themselves. You know why? Because they don't see. They don't see like a. But
He's been nicer.
the thing is, capitalism has done more than that anything ever in history of the world. People realize. I've worked this out.
Also think about it, 96, when Clinton went to Orange, he was on the plane. The street city. Went over to the plane. Went in there. And
So you're thinking that's just, they said that's not an organized effort,
No.
it's just them trickling out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's the end of the street.
Yeah.
So we did this.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get out of the door.
Good choice, is it Omar? Yes, it is.
See you.
That's a great day. Have a good guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I got hammy. Well, and that's what World War II showed us. When other powers are fighting for dominance,